You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio, man. We are here once again today, and man, we have a motivational consultant, international speaker, a coach, and author, Ahmard Vital. And man, does he have some inspiration and impact for y'all today. We're going to learn all about his amazing story and everything he does. You can go to his website, it's ahmardvital.com. I know he's going to be doing some big things in the future, but we have his amazing time with us today. First and foremost, Ahmard, how you doing?
Hey, man, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on.
Yes, sir, man. Thank you for taking time. So, man, I don't want to bore the audience with the long resume you have because you're just doing amazing things. But first and foremost, today's topic is all about inspiration, man. What do we need to do to keep showing up on the field of life? Because life gets hard. Things happen. You know what they say, when you get lemons, you just got to make some lemonade. You just got to do what you got to do. Share with the audience a little bit of your background and how that prepared you for what you do today.
Man, you know, that, like you said, that the resume is long, and I know some of your audience can look and see when you start writing a bio out, and it's like a whole lot of things on there. And like you said, they can go check out and see what all is there. But I like to focus on the idea that at the core, I am a writer, right? I literally started walking and I had a pen in my hand immediately. I think it's the gift from God that was given to me to be able to pick up a pen and express myself through writing. Started writing at the age of 8, wrote my first book at 11. And so everything I do, the consulting work, the curriculum building, the keynote speaking, the coaching, mental performance coaching, all of these things I do are built on the fact that I'm just a man with a pen and a pad in my hand. And I like to share my greatest gifts through writing. So everything I do is the foundation of writing. So as we go into many other things, I just want the audience to know that at the core, if I was stripped of everything that needed to be whatever in my life, is that I am a writer and is the foundation of everything. And so that I will say that was one of the greatest gifts I was ever given at birth.
And you also, you had a successful career as a college football recruiting analyst with Scout.com. You were a Fox Sports affiliate, and you also founded That Guy Media Group. So I had to put a little bit more details because, you've done so much. And with that, I mean, were you always trying to challenge yourself to do bigger things, or were you just kind of going with the flow with your gifts and talents?
Well, because I've been writing my whole life. Obviously, I went into journalism, and one of the first things I covered starting off was sports. I'm a jock at heart. I still am for the most part, being a fitness junkie that I am, and obviously still having a love for football, where I got my big breaks from. I mean, that's what I did. I went to college. I majored in journalism, came out of college, and took my first job at one of the largest community newspaper chains, moving to Northwest Houston. Interesting thing was that when I took that job, it was only paying a very low salary. I think it was $17,700 a year when I took that first job out of college. So I was getting paid more to work at a sports bar than I was with a degree in a major metropolitan city. And I remember that job, and I told my father, I said, I'm not taking that job. There's no way. I'll be broke. And he was just like, no, you're going to take that job and you're going to stay there for a year. Because if you learn to live at $10 an hour, under $20,000 a year, you'll never be broke again. And so I did. I ended up staying at that job for 1 year. And interestingly enough, my dad was overseas at the time, and he said, yeah, I'll have you do some odds and ends stuff around the grandmother's house. So he paid me an extra $500 a month, which means now I'm making $23,700, which for anyone who's been in a major city for more than 10 minutes knows that that's absolutely below the poverty line. But it taught me so much, because staying at that job he told me to led me to a job where I did become a college football recruiting analyst, helping young men find college scholarships through athletics. We worked with some ladies too, but mainly it was football. That was the bread and butter. And then from there, I jumped into the online blogging. That's where the Scout.com, Rivals.com, Fox Sports Southwest. I was the recruiting analyst for the state of Texas. I was the correspondent here in the city of Houston. And that really just took me to a lot of places, which, led to my first book. It was so much that was built on the idea of sports writing and just doubling down, because I came into the sports world at a time when the online blogging and the talk boards and all of those things, this is well before podcasts were even popular. But I remember doing some of those, and it's like nobody was listening. All of 12 people were listening to them at those times. But writing and the online blogging is really what catapulted a lot of my career, and I was able to leverage all of that into, all of the many things I do today.
You also, speaking of you being, in this writing world, you also had a book that you written, Awaken the Baller Within. Share with the audience a little bit about this amazing book that you wrote.
Yeah, so that was the first published book I did. It came at a time when I was going through quite a few things in my life. Maybe your audience will know about a little bit about depression and, relationships going sideways and going south. And I remember being very depressed during that time. And, I sort of found my way coming out of that, got into the church, hired a mentor, started reading the Bible, other important books, Think and Grow Rich, Richest Man in Babylon, Inspired Destiny, Who Moved My Cheese, all of the great top books to get myself out of that, along with the Word of God as well. And so as I was going through all of that, I realized like I have a new spiritual and personal development side of me, but I'm still just a sports writer and a jock. So how do I merge the two? And Awaken the Baller Within was born out of that. So I basically did the same thing Napoleon Hill did with Think and Grow Rich with Awaken the Baller Within. And I was interviewing, top collegiate football players, all over the country, just wanting to understand what it was that made them be successful on the field. I didn't want to know how much they bench, how fast they were. I got to see all of that stuff in real time, going to combines and going to their practices. But I wanted to know the mental component, because anyone out there who's watched sports long enough knows that there's a lot of guys who are extremely talented, and some of them didn't make it, not because of their talent, but because of their mental state of mind or lack thereof, where they just fell short of the goals or of expectations that, many people have for them that they probably didn't have for themselves. They squandered a lot of their money, or they just, fell off somewhere because their mental strength wasn't at a place where they could sustain the losses or deal with the adversity that just comes with being a high-end football player, which for any profession, there's a component to it where you're going to have to push through some things, and interestingly enough, we're at a time in society when we're trying to work out, the hard work and the delayed gratification and the idea that, there's a seed time and a harvest time, where it's like, you got to put in the work, you got to plow the field, you got to look after your crops, look after your sheep, look after your livestock and things of that nature. And all of that stuff is metaphors for the fact that, this thing, life is to be built. It doesn't just get handed to you. And I know some people will be like, well, some people got handed to them. Yeah, some people did get that. But you know what? We're not all created equal in that way. And so many of us, most of us, let's say 98% of us, have to go out and create and work. And so I was able to decipher all of that from talking to these, high-end athletes. And what it ended up happening is this football just ended up being a metaphor for life, in the way that the book was broken down, because parents used to buy that book for their children and they would read it while they were gone. And it came in the mail. And, I wrote it in a way because when I was young, I didn't like to read. So there's not a chapter in there longer than 12 pages, and the font is huge. So I wanted to make it to where young men who didn't like to read would want to get in on it. And parents were like, this book isn't about football at all. It's about life. I can become a better realtor, a better lawyer, a better teacher, a better parent, a better stockbroker, whatever profession you're in. It just intensified all of that because of the mindset that was put in place by these guys who were performing high intensity acts on the field. And I was able to, pull that information out and put it into a concise book to be able to help young men perform not only on the field, but off the field, which is where the keep showing up on the field of life comes from.
We're talking to our guest today, Ahmard Vital, and you said the key word, mindset. It leads me to this next question. You had another book that is dealing with overcoming self-doubt, and that is entitled I Am More Than Enough. Kind of share with the audience some of the, main focal point of the book of what you're trying to get across.
Yeah, with I Am More Than Enough, interesting enough, another tragedy happened right before I wrote that. You'll probably see a theme there with many of my books. A lot of life changes happen whenever a new book comes out. I Am More Than Enough focuses on the idea of personal responsibility. We were not all dealt an equal deck of cards. I mentioned a little bit of that earlier. What I Am More Than Enough is that when you get up and look in the mirror, I want you to own all of it. I mean, every bit of it, the good, the bad, the ugly. I mentioned that we're all one big pot of gumbo. You couldn't sift out all of the ingredients in a gumbo if you wanted to. Even if somebody who made it, they may not know every ingredient that's in there. It's a lot of spices. There's a lot of different elements to the gumbo, and we, in the same way, in somewhat same way, are like that. And what I mean by that is there may be some things that happened in your life that you're not truly at fault for. If you're a 9-year-old and your dad's in jail and your mom's on crack, that's not your fault, but it's your problem and you have to deal with it. And so what I Am More Than Enough is the idea of looking in the mirror and owning all the stuff that's happening in your life. And so it really comes down to the whole image. Like, what do you see when you look in the mirror? Do you see a winner? Do you see an overcomer? Do you see a slugger? Do you see, someone who's not worthy? And so Image is Everything focuses on the idea that I want you to look in the mirror and I want you to find out what's good there. I want you to address what's not good or not advantageous to your life, but you need to own all of it and find a way to say, okay, here's where I lack. Here's where I can fill in some gaps. Here's where I can, maybe work with someone else to get me to a particular place, but you own all of it. And so we focus on the image and also just accepting the fact that this is what it is, right? It really takes that whole victim utopia mindset off the table. Like, this is not what could be. This is what is. And so we like to focus a lot on that and creating something that can be better. But you have to like basically take personal inventory of your life. Look at all of it and just decipher what's what you need to correct and improve upon to be better. And that, of course, comes with the final point of the book, which is mindful changes. You're going to have to change. You can't continue to do the same thing over and over and think that you're going to get something different. I know that's typically the definition of insanity. I know we've sort of shied away from that word in recent years, but the bottom line is that you can't create something new. You can't create more money, more love, more wealth, more opportunities if you're doing the same thing. If you're going to the same job and you're putting in the same amount of hours and you're producing at the same level, you're not going to get a raise there. If you don't improve yourself from a health standpoint, like, good health just doesn't happen. Good health is created and is built upon through good and new and useful habits. And so I Am More Than Enough really looks closely at that idea and the fact that most people fail because they don't want to look at who's in the mirror. Because once you own who's in the mirror, then you can start making some useful and meaningful changes. And until that happens, you'll continue getting the same results. And whatever those results are, you just put them on autopilot and repeat. And this book tries to break that paradigm.
Yeah, I had someone on the show recently who kind of said the same thing. And what they said was, if an individual can't appreciate, now, how can they appreciate later? In other words, everyone wants to dream these big dreams. They want to have, this X, Y, Z. And they don't have it at the moment. So that allows them to cloud their judgment and be like, well, then I don't appreciate nothing until I get that one thing I want or these things I want. Well, if you're not appreciative of what you already have on your plate, what makes you think you're going to be appreciative once you get those goals that you reach?
Absolutely. And that's actually, there's a biblical component to that as well, from the standpoint that, like, if you're not grateful for what you have, then how can you be blessed with more? Right? If you're sitting up there and you don't put in, and I deal with this with a lot of young adults. It's like, if you're not maxing out your abilities when you're making 10 an hour, you can't get to 15 because you weren't grateful at the 10. You weren't putting in the effort to show your employer you're worth more. That your output is not commensurate to what you're doing. You're doing $10 an hour work, which means you're going to continue making $10 an hour. So that's just the way it works. You always have to give more than what the return comes. That's sort of how it works from the standpoint. It's like, okay, you continue giving, and that's why people come up. That's why people are very successful, because they provide more useful service to others, and they make lives better they make others' lives better by their useful service. And in part, people, well, you want to say break bread, pay you, patronize you, whatever you want to call it. There's a fair exchange for your service, but you must be grateful from where you stand, or you can't be blessed with more, because, like you said, if you're not appreciative of what is, there is no what can be, because you haven't even embraced the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, and you as an author and writer and speaker, you be able to work with various organizations and companies, including Boys and Girls Club, MD Anderson, Cancer Center, the Salvation Army. I mean, the list is long. With those experiences, how did you know prior to those opportunities that you were ready? And the reason why I ask that is because it kind of goes to what we were just talking about just moments ago. You're preparing yourself for these opportunities in the future that will come when you work for it.
That's an interesting question, and I'm glad you phrased it in that way, because on some sense, when you first walk into and you get a major organization, an MD Anderson, a Salvation Army, and all of those different, and definitely Boys and Girls Club, I was just doing something for them literally within the hour. You'll most of the times contemplate with yourself: Are you enough for the moment? Are you, not only are you worthy, are you enough for the moment? Because I know when I first started with Boys and Girls Club, and I've always been someone who's an advocate for teens and young adults. And I remember going to the Boys and Girls Club, and I was just like, hey, let me know all the middle schools you're working with, and we can get this going. I got programs for teenagers. And they were just like, yeah, this contract that we're offering you is for children, for K through 5. And I was like, no, maybe you all didn't understand me. Like, my programs are for teens. They said, this contract and program is for K through 5. And I remember thinking, like, other than career days, I don't do anything with elementary schools. I just don't. And I remember sitting back and saying, okay, this is a huge opportunity with an organization that loves my program. So what do I need to do? What do I need to become? So the first thing I did was utilize the community I have, which, by the way, if your audience doesn't have, a board of directors, a community, or just people they can connect with, mentor, and different things of that nature, you want to get that as soon as possible. People you can call on to help you with the game of life. And I remember contacting a friend of mine who had a PhD and was like, hey, how do I break down these heavy concepts? And it's funny because I Am More Than Enough was the first lesson I took into the Boys and Girls Club, and I focused on 3 things: love, respect, and gratitude. And I was like, okay, these are key concepts that a 5-year-old can pick up on. I have to make it simple enough, but these are words that a 5-year-old should know and know how to associate something with that. And we did that program for 2.5 years, and it had massive success. Because respect is something kids need to learn very early on. Love, obviously, is something that they need to embrace. And gratitude, obviously, for the young ones, you have to say that means thank you. Well, they need to learn to use that as well. And so I prepared myself by understanding that, like, if I'm going to put together a program, I need to know that there's a way where I can explain it to somebody to where their children can understand it as well. Now, there may be components on top of it that are very, adult driven, but the core concept, like think about what's one of the key components to wealth. My mentor used to say the first component to wealth is spend less than you make. That's about as simple as it gets. And so I took that mindset and went into all of these different organizations and just took it down to simplicity. And then you just add on to it and be able to make it to where it's key parts of the program that they can utilize and run with it as soon as possible.
Once again, listen to Refocus Radio, talking to our guest, Ahmard Vital. And man, today's subject topic, it is been, talked about throughout the whole conversation so far, but it's keep showing up on the field of life. And showing up is really awesome the way you illustrated your opportunity with the organization that wanted you to start with younger people when you thought you were qualified for another, set age of people. And I feel like that kind of happens. Sometimes we have, the right intentions of wanting to have this certain level of opportunity. But sometimes life just says, not so fast. I'm gonna make you take the slow route. I'm not gonna let you speed up to what you think you deserve or what you think, you should be at. I think life has a way of slowing us down. And people can say it's God, faith. It can be, whatever cup of tea is. But I feel like that's important. Sometimes we do gotta slow down and say, okay, hold up. What could I be doing better that can get me somewhere that I didn't expect I could be at as far as level? So when we talk about keep showing up on the field of life for Ahmard, how has that been in favor to you? How have you seen, your opportunities be a direct line byproduct because of you showing up?
The line is that, we are who we are. We all have something that we stand for. Whether, like you said, whether it's your faith, whether it's your intellect, and all these things can get wrapped together. Your expertise, maybe your skill, maybe you're skillful in certain things. And a lot of times when you see opportunities that show up for you, you show up as you, right? And a lot of times, it's like, well, you try to become something else that you're not. I remember when Wayne Brady first started doing his one of those shows, and they were just like, "You've never hosted shows before," and he's like, "I'm just going to do what I know, and then we'll figure the rest of it out. Maybe I'm the right person for the job, maybe I'm not."
Right.
Like for me, I'm a dude who grew up in locker rooms. I've been a 3-sport athlete most of my life. I'm still just a jock. It's just I'm a ministry leader. I'm also a fitness instructor. I work in marketing with a home builder. I do all of these different things, but it's still Ahmard Vital. And there's a maybe a profile that comes with me. I've been known to be, let's just say, intense. I've been known to what do they bring a lot of energy to the group, and it's like people book me for that. So if you're looking for like those late night infomercials, the ones where they're trying to do the little telethon to try to save the whales or something, I'm probably not your guy for that. I'm probably not your guy to do, the voiceover for that. Now you want to get things hype. You want to get people off their seats. You want to get people high-fiving, fist bumping, and, wanting to run through brick walls. Hey, call me. Like we all have a place and we all have something we bring to the table, and all of it is needed in society, right? That's why, the mixing of us as people is beautiful, because we need the mosaic in certain situations. Like we're not all meant to be for everything. We're not all meant to cater to every audience either, right? I mean, you might sit back and say, I know somebody who's perfect for you. It's not me, but let me get you connected with
Right.
them. So it's almost like a the older I get, the more self-aware I am and knowing who and what I am. And I mean, I'm still growing, and I have learned to take things down a little bit, but it's like my natural reaction is to get live. It's to be, as they say, passionate or whatever. And I'm just like, you can put whatever words you want on there, but I come off very forceful at times. And for some people, it doesn't work. So what do? You hire somebody who rolls with you, who's like, yeah, my manager is a very mild-mannered dude. I don't even know if I've heard him raise his voice once. So he does some negotiations. He goes and speaks to certain people for me. And so it's the awareness of knowing who you are and showing up as you, but also having the wherewithal to be like, you know what? I can empower someone else to do their showing up in a way to where we both can win at this. And so to me, that's one of the greatest lessons that, only took me, close to 30 years to figure out. But here we are. And it takes time. And, God continues to work through me to, show me whatever I'm, called to do and to bring in the good word. And so that's something that I've been picking up on lately. But showing up, you show up and do you. And then you allow and see what transpires from there. But you first have to find out who you are and not try to, take on profiles of 10 to 15 other people. They may have some characteristics and some things you like about them, but at the core, you need to figure out who you are. And then once you start understanding what you are, who you represent, what outcomes you want in life changes for you immediately.
Man, once again, true honor talking to our guest today. And you want to go to his website, ahmardvital.com, and learn about everything he's doing. He even had a book that we didn't get to have a chance to cover, but he had a recently book released earlier this year. And man, for the audience, drop the title and how they can get access to that book real quick.
Yeah, the new book is Now What? 5 Steps to Get Up and Create the Most of Life, written in the middle of 2020, summer of 2020. So focuses a lot on those making major moves. I'm talking major moves. I'm talking like wanting to write a book, changing careers, starting a family, like anything that's like major. I want to leave this industry and go to a completely other industry and get something going. And we focus on 5 steps with that. They can go preview. They can go to my website, ahmardvital.com. It's available there. It's on 33 different platforms as far as online stores are concerned. Also, if they want to get a quick preview before wanting to go purchase their own copy, they can go to booknowwhat.com, booknowwhat.com, and check it out. It's my publisher made that available for you all to go check that out, and hopefully you find something you like and decide to patronize and do some business with us.
Once again, I want to say thank you to our guest today, Ahmard Vital. You can go to his website, ahmardvital.com. Man, it was too fast, man, but hopefully we can get you on again another day in the future, man. But thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you for having me on today.